Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and this is our 12-minute deep dive into the stories shaping our world. Tonight, we're examining a major legal development in the United States, a significant shift in the American auto industry, a massive winter storm, the aftermath of a continental football tournament, and a geopolitical bombshell that has rocked international relations. We'll present multiple perspectives on each, giving you the full picture. Let's begin with our top story. In a stunning legal rebuke, a federal magistrate judge has dismissed the Justice Department's attempt to charge former CNN anchor Don Lemon for his alleged involvement in what was described as an anti-ICE mob at a Minnesota church. This case, stemming from protests several years ago, has been a flashpoint in the debate over immigration enforcement and free speech. The dismissal, coming from a magistrate judge, represents a significant setback for federal prosecutors. Legal analysts are divided. Some see this as a necessary check on the overreach of federal power, particularly in cases involving political speech and protest. They argue the First Amendment must protect citizens who vocally oppose government agencies, even in heated demonstrations. Others contend that the dismissal undermines the rule of law and sends a dangerous message that obstructing federal law enforcement operations will not face serious consequences. They point to the need for order and respect for the legal functions of agencies like immigration and customs enforcement. The case now returns to the Justice Department, which must decide whether to appeal the magistrate's decision or drop the matter entirely. This occurs under the administration of President Donald Trump, who has consistently advocated for a hardline stance on immigration and border security. The decision not to pursue charges against a high-profile media figure like Lemon will undoubtedly draw commentary from the White House. Shifting to the economy, we have a landmark development in American finance. Federal regulators have granted approval for two automotive giants, Ford and General Motors, to establish their own banks. Both of these new financial institutions will be chartered in the state of Utah. This move signals a dramatic expansion for these companies beyond manufacturing. Ford Credit and GM Financial are already massive players in auto lending, but a full banking charter allows them to accept deposits, offer a wider range of consumer loans, and potentially compete directly with traditional retail banks. Proponents argue this will increase competition in the financial sector, potentially leading to better rates for consumers on car loans and other financial products. They see it as a natural evolution for companies that have financed their own products for decades. Critics, however, raise red flags about systemic risk. They worry about concentrating too much financial power in industrial conglomerates and creating institutions that are too big to fail in a new, complex way. They question whether a car company should also be your banker, and what happens to consumer deposits if the auto market faces another severe downturn. The approval to charter in Utah is particularly notable, as the state has become a hub for industrial loan companies, a type of banking charter that has fewer regulatory restrictions than traditional banks. This story is a clear indicator of the blurring lines between industry and finance in the modern economy. Now, to a severe weather event unfolding right now. A powerful winter storm is bearing down on the southern and eastern United States, with forecasts predicting it will impact a staggering number of people. Meteorological models show the storm system bringing a mix of heavy snow, ice, and freezing rain from Texas all the way up the East Coast to New England. The National Weather Service has issued winter storm warnings and watches for millions. The scale of the potential disruption is immense, with over 160 million people in the storm's path. That's nearly half of the entire U.S. population facing the threat of dangerous travel conditions, power outages, and school and business closures. Major metropolitan areas like Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and New York City are all within the projected impact zone. Emergency management officials are urging residents to prepare emergency kits, avoid unnecessary travel, and heed local warnings. This storm comes as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of modern infrastructure to extreme weather events, which many scientists link to broader patterns of climate change. The economic impact could be significant, disrupting supply chains, grounding flights, and halting commerce across a vast region of the country. Turning our focus to Africa, the continent is still buzzing from the conclusion of the Africa Cup of Nations. While Senegal's dramatic victory in a chaotic final has captured global headlines, the tournament offered much more. An analysis from The Guardian Africa highlights 5 key takeaways that define this edition. First, the incredible strength of diaspora representation. Players born or raised in Europe, who chose to represent their African heritage, were pivotal for many teams, enriching the tournament's quality and narrative. Second, the sheer joyful chaos that makes AFCON unique, from unexpected upsets to last-minute drama, it was a festival of unpredictable football. Third, the floor-filling tunes and vibrant cultural displays in the stands that proved the tournament is as much a celebration of African culture as it is a sporting event. Fourth, the emergence of new stars and the reaffirmation of established ones on the continental stage. And fifth, the organizational challenges that persist, reminding observers that hosting such a massive event remains a complex task for many nations. The tournament serves as a powerful symbol of African unity and pride, a moment where sporting competition transcends borders and politics. For President William Ruto of Kenya and leaders across the continent, such events are crucial soft power tools, showcasing Africa's talent and spirit to the world. Finally, we must address the geopolitical earthquake that has dominated international policy debates this week. The United States government stands accused of breaking international law by the forceful abduction and subsequent charging of Venezuela's president, Nicolás Maduro, and his wife, Cilia Flores. The incident, which occurred in early January, reads like a plot from a political thriller, but has very real and dangerous implications. According to reports, at least 150 U.S. military aircraft were involved in a complex operation that resulted in Maduro being taken from Venezuelan soil and brought to the United States to face charges, including drug trafficking and corruption. The U.S. justification likely cites long-standing indictments against Maduro and frames the action as bringing a criminal to justice. However, the method, a military abduction of a sitting head of state from another sovereign country, has sparked global outrage and a fierce debate. On one side, supporters of the action argue that Maduro is a corrupt dictator who has destroyed his country and evaded justice for years. They see this as a necessary, if extraordinary, measure to uphold the rule of law and liberate the Venezuelan people from a tyrannical regime. They point to the suffering caused by his administration as justification for bypassing normal diplomatic and extradition channels. On the other side, critics, including numerous international law experts and foreign governments, condemn the act as a blatant violation of national sovereignty and a dangerous precedent that echoes the worst excesses of imperialism. They argue that regardless of the charges, forcibly removing a leader sets a terrifying standard where powerful nations can militarily intervene to depose governments they dislike. This perspective warns that such actions undermine the entire framework of international order and could lead to retaliatory measures and increased global instability. The incident has forced nations around the world to reassess their relationship with the United States. Allies are placed in a difficult position, balancing their support for Washington with their commitment to international legal norms. Adversaries are using the event to galvanize opposition to American foreign policy. For President Donald Trump, this represents one of the most audacious and controversial actions of his administration, a dramatic escalation of the long-standing pressure campaign against Caracas. The long-term consequences are unpredictable, but it has undoubtedly reshaped the landscape of international diplomacy and the concept of sovereignty in the 21st century. As we conclude tonight's deep dive, let's reflect on the connections between these stories. We see a nation grappling with the limits of prosecuting protest, even as it takes unprecedented military action abroad. We see its corporate landscape evolving with new financial powers, even as a natural disaster reminds everyone of shared vulnerability. And we see a celebration of African unity in sport, standing in contrast to the divisive geopolitics playing out elsewhere. The world is complex, interconnected, and constantly in motion. Thank you for joining us for this analysis. We've presented the facts, the figures, and the competing perspectives. Now, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these major developments? Share your views in the comments below. For continued coverage of these and all the stories that matter, from Nairobi to New York, remember to subscribe to Kenya News Update today.